I'm not sure why anyone would play Classic over Modern because that game just feels so old school in comparison. Maybe I should just properly give it a chance. What's up, my gamers? I'm back at it again with another first impression / new player experience, this time for World of Warcraft Classic, Wrath of the Lich King. I myself am a brand new WoW player, meaning I've never played these games growing up, so perhaps I'm not clouded by nostalgia or biased to liking a certain WoW expansion more than any other. This is my very first time experiencing this area of WoW, and I personally felt that the only way to do this game justice is to go into this experience truly blind. And with the amount of content out there on how to min-max or level up quickly and efficiently, it's so easy to spoil yourself on basically every mechanic, dulling the experience and killing any sort of discovery made by you. So I avoided all those distractions as much as I could, and I made a character and just played the game. So yeah, this is my new player experience for World of Warcraft Classic, Wrath of the Lich King. Starting off almost right away, I noticed how much more immersive this world is. You actually have to read quest text and descriptions, or good luck finding out where you need to go and what you need to do. So you're telling me my map doesn't get filled with a lot of crap, so I can just auto path and just do the thing? I actually have to think and use my brain? But for real, I actually found this to be a positive, because I was paying attention to named locations and NPC names, and where enemies spawned in general. Usually in traditional MMOs, you have all your markers and waypoints on screen guiding you where you need to be at all times, and you just sort of play on autopilot for the most part. WoW Classic's got you gaming, baby! At least until I familiarized myself with the game and installed add-ons like Questy, which basically adds in the quest markers and waypoints to your map just for convenience sake. I still appreciated the old school quest design and respected the game for it. For my character, I decided to go rogue again and made them very similar in appearance to my retail version, just to really get a good feeling of how these two different versions of the game feel separate from each other. Maybe this was a mistake on my part, because I later on found out that leveling as a rogue alone when you're also a scrub is very difficult. And there was times I was tempted with the thick biceps of a warrior troll, or swapping to a mage. But I did in the end decide to tough it out and stick with my rogue as my main, because I had already gone too far into leveling the class, and the playstyle was already sort of fitting towards me. It was sort of difficult completing quests, but I was still having a good time.
Now you're invincible. You're in a protected shield. Go, baby, go.
I don't know where to go.
Keep going into the dungeon. Go ahead. Do you not see the entrance?
Oh, sorry. I'm just a newbie. Help me. I'm running. Oh, I'm almost dead. I'm almost. Oh!
Did you get in?
I also really like how you don't just queue up for a dungeon in a list with a few button presses and you just teleport into a party in an instant, ready to rush down everything in seconds. In Classic, you actually physically have to find the dungeon and manually find party members yourself. This simple archaic mechanic adds so much to the game. People actually talk in the chat, people work together to get common goals completed. I truly felt a sense of camaraderie and union with these players in the game for a moment, and it's insane a game can evoke these feelings. For example, you could be struggling to kill this one boss out in the wild and feel it's an impossible goal to complete, but out of nowhere comes your savior. Some adventurer who happened to show up out of nowhere invites you to a party and you two work together to take him down. And then you end up party for a moment after, just chatting it up in the chat a little bit. I truly feel this community is alive, active, and social in Wrath of the Lich King, which I think is a really big positive for an MMO. I had a lot of what the f moments playing with randoms, and I was always laughing my ass off and having a great time. These guys actually drop good money, like, sheesh.
Yeah, dude.
For a broke boy like me. Warped leather pants? I'll try these out. Hell yeah.
Hey.
Are these better than my pants? Oh, sorry. Hey, no, what? I wanted to equip those. What is... You trying to give me something?
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you some
money. No, don't give me anything.
Some milk!
I want to.
Don't give me, okay.
You need some milk. Yes, accept the trade. I believe in my first WoW video, I critiqued the combat and said it wasn't very fun, but now having more experience with tab targeting in general, It really has grown on me significantly, and I'd say the rogue is actually a fun class to play. I even tried to get into PvP a little bit, and although I hardly know what's going on or what's happening just because of overall UI visual overload, I did manage to get a few kills in some games. And I like how the different battlegrounds have varying objectives and map design. They felt to me like epic battles, although I basically always got destroyed being an undergeared peasant that I am. From what I can tell, the best way to gear up your character and get stronger is to just spam dungeons as fast as possible to get large amounts of gear / loot. But at the same time, I'm not the fastest at leveling, and all the players I had grouped with were easily leveling way past me, so general population wise it quickly became quite barren in the early level areas. I do believe at max level there are probably tons of players grouping up and doing dungeons and raids together, but at the lower level the game started to feel dead, which was a huge bummer overall. Before I got to the mid-level area, I was relatively progressing consistently, but once it became harder to find groups and dungeon runs, my progression came to a crawl. This is mostly my fault because at the time, I wasn't able to no-life the game, and most of the community rushed their way to max level, leaving my poor casual ass behind. Sadly, I have to be honest and mention, this was probably at the time my interest with the game started to wane. I enjoyed the gameplay, the questing, the leveling journey, making friends in game and all that. It was so amazing and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I noticed if I were to make it to max level, I would need to do an insane amount of grinding. It took me roughly 5 whole days of playtime to get to the mid-level 40s, and from what I've heard, which I would have preferred to stay ignorant about, leveling from level 70 to 80 is just as long, if not longer, so that is something to keep in mind for all you newbies out there. There is something to be said about a game that isn't afraid to take its time to get to the good stuff, you know, sniff the flowers a little bit, go for a walk with your homies in game. And when most players hit level 80, the common reaction is, I can finally start playing the game now. But at the same time, if you lock all your fun stuff behind weeks of semi-monotonous grinding and padding, it can get somewhat exhausting for the casual solo player, myself included. But at the same time, you don't want to be at max level within like 5 hours of gameplay. So there is something to say about overall balance. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed every stage of this journey, from leveling alone like a scrub in the open world, to socializing more and finding groups to complete dungeons. It truly feels like a living, breathing world with mysteries to uncover, and for some people, that's exactly what they're looking for. The early moments for me when I was truly blind were some of the most exciting and fun moments I've had in gaming recently. And I found myself constantly wanting to go back and make new players and go through the early leveling experience over again just because of how addicting it was. Going into this game, my goal was to capture the new player experience, and I didn't want to stop until I experienced and ran my very first WoW raid, something that I would hear so much about growing up as a young gamer, hearing epic tales like Dragons! But after realizing the grind and all that, I quickly became content with what I did experience. And I believe that what I did get to play through was the new player experience. And most players like me, trying this for the first time, weren't going straight into raids. In a way, if I completed a raid in Wrath of the Lich King, some could argue I would no longer be a new player, or that I had long since passed the realm of what a new player would be able to do. Don't get me wrong, I still deeply love this game, and still try to convince my friends to get a sub literally all the time, but I couldn't commit as much time to it as I'd like to. And sadly that made me fall behind the overplayer population, making it more difficult to even find groups to play with on the late hours I was logging on. Also, I should mention, I was on the highest server population in my region, so I know that that wasn't the issue. Overall, I don't want to make it sound like I hate World of Warcraft Classic. In reality, I actually managed to hold on to my attention longer than a lot of other modern MMOs have been able to, WoW Retail included in that. And I found this experience so much more rewarding and immersive than the modern version of WoW currently, and I can understand why so many players would choose to play this game rather than that version of WoW. There are some things that are minorly annoying about Classic, such as leveling in general taking way too long, where it starts to feel like a job, and how there's also no transmog system at all. But that's pretty much all that I can think of that is negative, so I think the game's overall pretty sick. I think the early game leveling is ironically the best, as I mentioned. You don't have many abilities and are trying out new classes and growing and gaining new gear quickly, and I find myself constantly wanting to make alts. But again, the amount of time it takes to level forced me into focusing on just one character, so to be able to release this video at some point, I'm sure I have many other things I can say about this game that are positive, but if you yourself have been on the fence about diving in, I can honestly recommend trying the free month trial I believe they have, and make a choice from there for yourself. And if you have questions or think I forgot to mention something about Classic that makes it your favorite game of all time, let us know down in the comments below. Consider subscribing. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it means so much to me. Also, if you're into skateboarding or photography at all, check me out on Instagram. Currently I'm recording this on the day of Christmas, but it probably won't be out till New Year, so Happy New Year everyone as well. Ciao ciao!